everyone, it's Tracy Malone. Thank you so much for joining me here on my YouTube channel or my podcast. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Today, I've got a very special guest. We're going to be talking about a divorce topic today, and I've got a wonderful mediator resource for us. David Fein brings us a wealth of experience and compassion for the mediation business. I'm going to be asking him the really hard questions that people ask. How do you mediate with a narcissist? They don't agree on anything. What do we do? Where do we start? What mistakes should I avoid? And we're going to ask him all these questions so that when you have to mediate with a narcissist, you kind of know the rules. So many times, if we get into a situation where the narcissist convinces us to get a mediator, we don't have to go to court. They're bamboozling you. So we need to know, what is the marker to stay in mediation? Are they really willing to negotiate? Because half the time they're not. So let's go meet David and find out what we do in these situations, mediating a divorce with a narcissist. And I'll see you on the other side. Welcome, David. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited that you are here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
And we are going to be talking about mediation in a divorce situation. And I know that you were a lawyer before this, and now you're a mediator. Before we start with our questions, what made you switch over?
So it's a funny story. It was one of those quintessential sort of in between careers, and I was contacted by a mediator who handled my own divorce. And we were talking about some numbers that she was running with regards to spousal support. And as we got done with the conversation, she was asking how things were going, and I had expressed frustration with, where I was in my career at this stage. And she said, I have a great idea. Why don't you come work for me? Which at first I resisted because no, I didn't see myself as a mediator. But I thought about it over the course of a couple days, and then called her back, and she said, "Look, why don't you come in on Saturday? I have a difficult mediation. You can sit on the couch like a fly on the wall, watch, and then afterwards, if that's something you could see yourself doing, then I'd love to talk." And so I went in on that Saturday, and the following Monday, I moved myself into the current office you find me sitting in, and I've been there ever since, and I'm coming up on my 2-year anniversary.
Wow, what a great story. And again, who goes to law school and then it goes, I think I'll be a mediator. Again, you have all the knowledge, which is a brilliant, in between place that many narcissists, many mediators don't really understand. And so the fact that you've got both on your plate is really amazing. What's the difference in a lawyer and a mediator handling a divorce? Can you explain that to my audience?
Sure. I mean, as a lawyer, you're taught to advocate vociferously and to your greatest extent you can for your client. And those skills, I think, are invaluable for me as a mediator. You don't need to be a lawyer to be a mediator, but it certainly helps. And I spent a lot of my legal career working through coalitions and trying to bring parties together who don't normally agree. And that was in the energy sector, and it was around policy and legislation and government regulation. And so, sort of that skill set of trying to bring people together, I think, serves me well as a mediator. The single biggest difference and really challenge, I think, for me as a lawyer is, a lot of times as a lawyer, you're solution oriented. You kind of, you can see a path to how to resolve whatever the conflict is that the client came to see you for. But as a mediator, your role is a little bit different because, of course, you're not representing one person. You're representing two people jointly in this process. So The challenge for me is making sure that I am helping them come up with their own decisions, letting them come to those decisions on their own, providing examples or help if they ask. But in order to have a lasting mediation agreement, it's really important that the couple feels like they came up with that solution. They came up with that agreement. So while maybe I might see a path to resolving this early on in the process, we still have to go through the process and they have to find their way to resolving the various issues that we have to address in mediation.
Hmm. So I have so many questions about how the process, that was a really good sort of what the differences are. But my clients are all divorcing a narcissist, and they're always high conflict, they're always uncooperative, and there's a lot of tension to even be in the same room. And I know mediation doesn't have to be, but to be at that table as a joint couple is often very challenging for someone who is against a narcissist. When they first start off, first question is like, people ask me, well, do we need a lawyer if we're gonna have a mediator? Do we need a lawyer to look it over? What do we need? And do we go to the lawyer and then they pick a mediator? Like, how does the process work?
Yeah, so it can work a variety of different ways. A lot of times a client comes to us because they found us on a Google search or on LinkedIn or other social media platform or get referred by a former client. And in those initial conversations that at least we conduct, we get a good sense of whether they're a good candidate for mediation. Mediation is not for all couples who are experiencing a divorce, as you know. Um, but the fact that they're exploring mediation to me is always a good sign.
Mhm.
It means that at least one of the two are interested in a more amicable, peaceful, and collaborative solution to the issues that arise in a divorce situation. And that's especially important if there's children involved
Mhm.
because they're going, by definition, they're going to have interaction with one another going forward as the children grow, as they make joint decisions for those children, as they attend, graduations and recitals and sporting events and weddings and all those wonderful life things. The mediation process can be a way to help the healing process too of that fractured relationship. And so, whether it's a high conflict, couple or not, they can still use mediation as long as they're willing to, abide by the ground rules that we set, which is essentially, we're going to treat everyone involved with respect. We're going to be open and transparent about everything, and that we're going to work in a collaborative way to resolve issues. And so sometimes that might mean separating people and putting them in different rooms.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's able to sit at the same table. We see a variety of different situations. There's no one set of criteria or relationship that mediation can work in, and we have found success with all types of relationships and all type of net worth and socioeconomic, ethnic backgrounds, etc. We can really help them get through the divorce um, efficiently and cost effectively. To your question about do they need to hire a lawyer still? In Illinois, where I practice, they don't have to have a lawyer. They can represent themselves before the court at the end of the mediation process. Um, and some of our clients have lawyers throughout the process that maybe they're consulting with.
Mhm.
Others retain lawyers at the end of the process to review the agreements that have been reached and get another, set of eyes on kind of what's been resolved, and they may bring up new or different issues, or we may revisit issues, but it's not required. We certainly encourage it. It's kind of a mixed bag, I would say, about what percentage of our clients, retain a lawyer in addition to going through the mediation process.
That was very helpful. Here's the other question. Do they file first? Like, where's that file number? Because again, most of my clients are going to a lawyer and then they've got a case number. Do they need that first, or does a mediator take care of that court business stuff with them?
So I would say 80% of the clients that we see, we're one of their first calls. They have not yet filed for divorce. They're exploring options. They're gathering information. Maybe they're talking to a lawyer, they're talking to a mediator, maybe they're talking about a hybrid, with a collaborative process with attorney assisted mediation. But it's not required that they file. And we usually tell our clients there's no need to file right now.
Mhm.
Let's wait till we get further along in the process. And then we teach them how to file, and they file themselves. Like they can go online and create an account. It's just like opening up any other online account that we do every day. So uh, so people are able to handle that without the need to hire an attorney to go through the process. And so that piece of not all mediators, educate clients on that. We take pride in trying to teach them how to do it themselves if they want to do it themselves, and show them how to do it. They do it themselves. They open the account. They upload the documents that need to be uploaded. Um, we can help them uh, on instructions on how to fill out various court forms that are required, depending on whether there are children involved or no children involved, whether there's child support that's being ordered or not, whether you know, um, there's retirement assets that need to be separated or split. Depending on all the complexities of any one case, there might be more court forms and other things that need to get filed. And sometimes that gets a little more complicated, but we try to help them if they're comfortable doing it. Great. It's one less thing that they need to go reach out to an attorney and pay them to do that.
Perfect, perfect. That's again what people are just hungry for, this
Mhm.
kind of information. Like, how does it take? How long does it take? And people ask me that. And I'm like, never been in a room with a narcissist? And nobody can tell you because it doesn't go well for 99% of them. But, you know, my story of, I think we had 7 trials. That's not what they're going to have, right? Everyone's got their own beast that's going to fight in different ways. But as a
Mhm.
general rule, is it quicker than going to court and going through all of that?
Yeah, as a general rule, it's much quicker. I mean, I think in Cook County, Illinois, which is one of the largest court systems in the country, or maybe is the largest court system in the country, I think the average length of a divorce case is certainly over a year and a half, maybe 2 years. We've had some mediation clients where we got done in less than 3 months from the first day they called us to them being divorced. Because if you move quickly, um, we always tell our clients, we're following your lead. We will move as quickly or as slowly as you would like. It's your process, but it can be done very quickly. And the beauty of one of the vestiges of COVID, the ability to use Zoom for prove up hearings, now allows couples to just sit in the confines of their home or office and appear before a judge and get their case heard and divorced. I would say the average mediation is about 6 months.
Okay.
But generally, if people want to move swiftly with document production and so forth, we can move them through the process in probably 3 months or so.
That's really fast. Yeah, most of my clients don't even have discovery for 6 months. So,
Right.
down to
Well, and
that.
that's the beauty of the mediation process is, we don't do the lengthy discovery like you would do in court where you're asking for 5 years of documents and statements. We take an approach where it's, maybe a few months, at
Mhm.
most 6 months, unless there's some concern about dissipation or someone not being honest about finances. But generally speaking, that is the most time consuming piece is gathering all that.
Mhm.
So depending on how motivated the couple is, it can move very quickly. Once we have that,
Mhm.
we populate it into a spreadsheet. We call it a marital balance sheet.
Mhm.
And then we share it with the clients and we go over it to make sure it's accurate and titled correctly and, start talking about issues like that. That's for all cases, of course. And then if there are children involved, then there's a whole litany of other things we need to do. And we always like to start with the parenting issues first.
I love that you do that. Um,
It just sets the right tone. Um, I think it's telling on how that process goes, how maybe the rest of it will go.
mhm.
I think that I find it also easier for couples to reach agreement on parenting issues as opposed to financial issues.
Mhm.
I think everyone who comes into our doors wants to do what's right for their children,
Mhm.
and um, and that's essential. Like, and if there's one area we spend a lot of time talking to them about is even if there's high conflict, is okay. Let's step back. Let's think about the kids.
Mhm.
Let's not think about your disputes and your different. Let's think about the children, and let's do what's best for them.
Mhm.
And that really can get people unstuck and can get them to open up and can get them to maybe see the forest through the trees and, develop some what I would describe as early and easy wins in the process where they both feel like they're being heard and that they're coming to agreements on all these things about making decisions about school and healthcare and extracurricular activities and religion and how all that's going to work and the schedules and all of that. The schedule is probably the hardest thing, but you know, but getting those easy victories with the parenting issues and putting that first and foremost is really our preference. I don't know what other mediators do, but I that's our preference, and we start with that. Every once in a while, we'll get a client who, maybe they're dying in a pile of debt, and they really need to get a hold of their finances. In that situation, okay, we'll start there because that's really the issue that brought them to divorce.
Mhm.
So let's get them unstuck on that. Let's try to come up with ways to resolve that, um, and um, and then move to that. But I would say that's less than 1% of the cases. It's 99% of the cases when there's children involved, we just stay with that and plow through and address those issues first.
To me, it makes so much sense because what I see in my clients is it's not put first. The money, the more tense, the more aggravation, the more hiding, the more secretive goes first. And it's a roadblock. It's like those little
Yes.
barriers on the highway. It's like you can't get beyond that. And by the time they've reached the parenting plan, which to most of my clients is at the end, when they reach that part, they're frustrated of fighting for all the money things and all those things have already under their skin. And they're less cooperative when the parenting plan finally comes around because, well, I'm not giving him anything or she's not going to get this right because that financial part created a bigger problem. Like, I love the way you guys are easing into it, going, it's for your kids. Let's start with that, and that does bring them like, wait, we are both parents and we're both working on this for our kids versus an afterthought after the money and the fighting. Now we're going to agree on something. It's so much harder for my clients. So I'm going to make everybody make sure they push the parenting plan first because it really makes a difference. And, um, you were talking about the discovery. One of the biggest things I see with my clients and even my own, not producing, 6 times contempt for never giving in a single piece of paper. Most narcissists are just going to not do that. How does someone in a mediation system force them to get? I know you don't need as much, but there's, with the people that I've got, it's, oh, they've got a secret bank, but we're not telling you. And then we've got private investigators and everybody's chasing things. It would be hard to walk into mediation if you don't even know what's on the table.
Yeah, and that really is a challenge. Very early on in the process, we remind them of the requirement that they be open and honest about the finances, that they're going to sign documents and swear before a judge on the documents they signed that they have been completely transparent about their finances, and that both of them are basically stating that they understand the family's finances and so forth. And so um, we do, I would say, a hard push on that. And sometimes, there are issues that come up when we do get the discovery.
Mhm.
There are issues, maybe where one spouse is like, you know, and we share it all with each other. I mean, we use an encrypted vault, to protect confidentiality, and they can access that, look at the documents. Sometimes things have come up through that where if it was a litigation, right, it would be pretty ugly and nasty and would lead to, but we try to diffuse that by being the ones to then address it with the other
Right.
client
Yeah.
and maybe do that offline one-on-one so they don't feel like they're under attack from the spouse.
Mhm.
But it can be difficult. I think the open and transparent nature of everything with the finances is really key. And a lot of times you have one spouse who maybe isn't as educated or aware of the family's finances. It just wasn't something they paid attention to, which is typical. It's usually one spouse who handles the finances. And a lot of times it's eye-opening, you know, when you do run into those situations where I didn't realize you had that bank account
Mhm.
or I didn't know you took that money and invested it, in these stocks. That raises a bunch of problems in the mediation process, and it's something you have to work through. And um, I've found that you need to take the time to understand that, especially when there's someone who does not have the financial acumen. I find that being one of the more challenging aspects, especially if one is really well versed in it
Yeah.
and kind of dominates those conversations. And you need to kind of keep them in check. And that's why we do what we call caucus mediation, where we separate them in different conference rooms and kind of do that so that we can make sure, because a lot of times, one party may not be willing to admit they don't understand it
Mhm.
in front of the other.
Mhm.
So it's really important to, I guess it's your typical people skill of just kind of taking the temperature of the room and maybe taking a time out and just breaking apart and just having those one-on-ones so that we can be assured that the client's understanding what we're talking about.
Mhm.
Because again, the worst thing that happens down the road is that they're not happy with what transpired and they felt like they weren't educated enough on the topic. So um, I find our role as mediators, a lot of it is just pure education,
Mhm.
education on, the difference between after tax, and pre-tax when you're talking about, retirement assets and we're not CPAs, we can't give them tax advice, but maybe there's tax implications, and we suggest that they talk to, their CPA if they have one, and a financial advisor if they have one, all these trusted professionals, or get their own, as they're going through the process. So it really is, I mean, we make it a holistic process where we don't have the expertise. We're going to tap someone on our network. And we're going to, let them talk to or ask our clients if they want to be introduced, give them two, three different names. And the goal is to, get them as educated as they can be on these issues so that they can make informed decisions. And
Yeah,
that's really what it's about, education to allow informed decisions.
absolutely. I love the way you talk. It's like I want to hire you. I'm like, sounds like everything's so much more copacetic, right? And when you answered the question about them not complying or bringing in paperwork or whatever the situation it was, because you represent both of them, you have more power. You're their lawyer too, going, let's get in the other room. You really got to give us this stuff. Are there situations where you kick these people out and they're just never ever good candidates?
We've had limited situations where we felt that, yeah, one was not cooperating and being open and honest.
Hmm.
Some things just didn't add up from what we were seeing in the documents.
Hmm.
Um, we asked for additional documentation and that was refused. And we said to the client, I don't think we can help you out anymore.
Hmm.
This process is dependent upon
Wow.
transparency and openness and cooperation. And if you're not going to cooperate, then I think you're going to need to retain counsel,
Hmm.
um, or find some other mediator to do it. And those situations are unfortunate, but you can usually tell. I mean, I've been around long enough where I think I can read people. You can usually tell
Hmm.
if something doesn't seem right and someone isn't being forthcoming. Sometimes we have clients who maybe they're high net worth clients. They really don't want anyone to know their business, and trying to explain to them that they need to disclose that. They need to share that. If they're in court, they'd have to share it. Um, this is no different than that. We're only asking for limited stuff, but you can't make decisions or, expect your spouse to make decisions if he or she does not have the information to effectively make those decisions. So, it can't be just trust me. We have to look at statements and records and, um, explain things. So it happens, and sometimes people are reluctant. And you're right. I mean, the beauty of mediation is I can pull one aside and just say, hey, what's going on here? Like, why are you unwilling to do that? You really need to do this. And, 9 times out of 10, then, they needed to talk or there was some hesitation. And, you know, it's a confidential process, so it's not like it's
Yeah.
discoverable. Even if things blow up, nothing that happens in mediation is discoverable in a court case. So, we try to remind them of that. And thankfully, at least in my practice, there hasn't been. Um, it's small handful of times where we've seen that issue come up.
So it sounds like there's more confidentiality by going with mediation than hitting a court and having that you could seal it, but anybody could sit in the back of the room too and listen if you're that concerned. So it sounds like you do get more confidentiality.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I mean, you're not arguing motions and fighting over this, that, or the other thing before a judge. I mean, we've heard all the stories of the, really litigious cases where all sorts of, allegations and
Mhm.
dirty laundry gets aired in court. You know, it doesn't matter. At least Illinois is a no-fault state, like, so many of our states. Doesn't matter what happened, right? It's just a standard of irreconcilable differences, which is essentially satisfied if one person says we have irreconcilable differences.
Right.
It only takes one. So it's an interesting standard, but I think it's positive in that you don't have to prove someone did something bad, right? I mean, so it should take that out, but we all know that litigation can get ugly and people use whatever they're going to use to try to achieve what they want to achieve through litigation. So, yeah, I mean, the mediation process is much more private and confidential. The terms of the settlement, generally are not um, publicly available. The judgments are, of course, but it's a form with check marks and stuff. And
Mhm.
most of our clients, want their stuff to stay as private as it can, and obviously, going through the mediation process helps that.
Mhm. Well, this has been really helpful. Do you have any closing pointers or tips or something that we missed?
Yeah, I would say to your listeners, if you're contemplating divorce, um, yes, you should talk to a lawyer, but also consider talking to a mediator. And there are hybrid, type proceedings that can help you get through divorce. It's all about education, and it's all about, transitioning from family 1.0 to family 2.0. And in mediation, there is a beauty of it. I personally believe it helped heal wounds in my own family and helped, um, you know, smooth things over to with both my ex and my children. And I know many couples that would share in that it has a ancillary benefit of starting the healing process even before you're divorced because of the collaborative, cooperative, and kind of peaceful way that you're going to go through this difficult, life process of divorce. And so I would encourage anyone who's contemplating it to talk to someone who's a mediator, who understands mediation, or talk to someone who's been through mediation as an alternative to the litigation process. That doesn't mean you won't retain a lawyer to review everything, but it is an effective, both from a cost and a healing standpoint, way to get through the divorce process.
Way better. I have clients with $5 million legal bills so far. And, as soon as it goes into court, it's almost like it's accusation city and it just becomes a war and a battle. And 5 years is that $5 million lady. It becomes part of your life where if you could have just gotten rid of this a year ago, it would have made not wasting $5 million, but it would have made a difference in, again, the family and the torture to a family going through that. So I can't thank you enough. Can you tell people how they can reach you?
Sure. You can reach us at our website, which is the Center for Divorce Resolution, www.cdrdivorce.com. Or you can email me at david@cdrdivorce.com, or my phone number is 312-446-2882. Always happy to chat. We offer no cost consultations to any prospective clients. So, happy to talk with any listeners who are want to understand the powers of mediation.
Well, I can't thank you enough. You're exactly all this information. I'm like, I don't have a video that tells us the process. And every time someone comes to me, I'm going to just go, here, watch this video. Now you'll know. So thank you so much. And I can't wait till this goes live. I will share it with you, and all of the people are going to learn so much. So thank you, David.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Have a good day.
I hope you guys found that helpful. I'm going to put all of David's information down below, and I suggest that you reach out to him if you have more questions. And remember, I am always here to coach you, to guide you. And it's not a lifetime commitment. It's a what do we do about this, Tracy? Or any situation that you need help with, I'm here. So you can find all that information on my website, narcissistabusesupport.com. And I will see you on the other side. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you found value in David's words.